Before we step into the mirror and uncover the secrets beyond, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell. That way, you'll never miss another mysterious journey into the unknown. The mirror moved. It wasn't a trick of the light nor the nervous flicker of a candle's flame. The tall, dust-veiled mirror in the attic shifted, as if it had lungs and had taken a sudden deep breath. 12-year-old Elias froze on the creaking wooden floor, heart hammering so loudly it seemed to echo against the rafters. He rubbed his eyes, certain he was imagining it. But no, again the glass quivered like the surface of water disturbed by a stone. Elias had always been drawn to the attic. It was the forgotten place of the house, filled with boxes of letters, books with moth-eaten pages, and strange things his parents never spoke about. But this mirror was different. Unlike anything else in the attic, it wasn't cracked, dusty, or broken. Its surface shimmered faintly, as if light lived within it. He stepped closer. His reflection stared back, pale and wide-eyed, but something was wrong. The reflection's lips were moving. Elias stopped breathing. The boy in the mirror whispered something he couldn't hear. His lips shaped words, his words, but in reverse, as though they came from another world. Elias leaned forward until his nose almost touched the cold glass. The reflection smiled. Not Elias's smile. Not the awkward, nervous grin he knew well. This smile was sharp, deliberate, knowing. The attic air grew colder. Shadows clung to the walls, pressing closer. Elias' curiosity tangled with fear, but fear never held him long. He reached out a trembling hand and pressed his fingertips against the mirror. It rippled. Not the hard resistance of glass, but the fluid movement of a pond disturbed by touch. Elias gasped and stumbled back. But the pull was stronger than his hesitation. The mirror dragged at him as if invisible fingers were wrapped around his wrist. "No," he whispered, his voice breaking. But the reflection, his other self, beckoned. It pressed its own palm against the glass, urging him forward. The mirror swallowed his hand, then his arm. The icy sensation crawled over his skin like frost. He tried to pull away, but it was too late. His entire body was being drawn into the cold, liquid surface. The last thing Elias saw before the attic disappeared was the smirking, reflection stepping out into his world as he fell into the darkness beyond the glass. And then the boy who walked into a mirror never came back. Elias landed hard on cold stone. The air was thick, heavy, and smelled faintly of iron. For a moment, he couldn't move. His lungs felt crushed. His ears rang with a silence so deep it hurt. Then slowly he pushed himself up and looked around. The attic was gone. Instead, Elias stood in a vast hall made entirely of mirrors. They stretched from the black marble floor to a ceiling he couldn't see, each reflecting endless corridors that branched away in every direction. His own image stared back at him thousands of times over. An army of Elisases trapped in glass cages. But not all of them were him. Some of the reflections moved when he didn't. One smiled when he frowned. Another tilted its head when he remained still. Their eyes gleamed unnaturally bright, and one by one, they began to lean closer against their side of the glass, pressing their faces against it like predators at a window. Elias' skin crawled. "Where am I?" he whispered. The echo of his voice didn't come from his mouth. It came from behind him. He spun around. There stood his reflection, the one that had pulled him here. But it was no longer a reflection. It was flesh and blood standing on his side of the glass. The boy wore his face but not his fear. His eyes glowed faintly silver and his smile was calm, too calm. "You shouldn't have touched the mirror," the double said softly, his voice smooth and cold. "But now that you have, you belong here." Elias stumbled back. "Who are you?" The double tilted his head. "I'm you. The better you. The braver you. The one you've always wished to be." His silver eyes narrowed. "And you," he pointed at Elias with quiet disdain, "are the copy." The mirrors around them trembled. The reflections inside began to whisper, voices overlapping in strange, broken tones. "Stay, stay, stay." Elias's heart pounded in his ears. "No," he said firmly, though his voice shook. "I'm real." "You're not." The double laughed, a sound that made the hall shiver. "Real?" He stepped closer, and the mirrors flickered with shadows. "Then prove it. Survive the mirror realm, little copy. If you can." Before Elias could speak, the double snapped his fingers. The mirrors nearest to Elias rippled like liquid, and figures began to crawl out, twisted, versions of himself with hollow eyes and mouths that stretched too wide. their fingers long and sharp, scraped against the floor as they dragged themselves forward. Elias turned to run, but every direction only led to more mirrors, more distorted selves pressing closer, whispering his name. The double's voice followed him like a shadow. "Welcome to your new home, Elias." Elias sprinted down a corridor of mirrors, his footsteps echoing like thunder in the endless hall. No matter how far he ran, the reflections pressed in from every side, their warped faces muttering his name in broken whispers. His chest burned, but stopping wasn't an option. If he stopped, they would catch him. Then suddenly the corridor ended. A single mirror blocked his path, far larger than the others, framed in black metal that twisted into shapes resembling claws. Elias skidded to a halt, breathing hard. The surface of the mirror rippled faintly, and as he stared into it, his reflection began to change. The boy in the glass grew taller, older, his face sharpening into something crueler. This version of Elias wore tattered black clothes, and his eyes glowed like burning coals. When he smiled, Elias saw teeth too sharp to belong to any human. The voice of his double whispered from behind, though he was nowhere in sight. "Your first trial begins now. Defeat your shadow or let it claim you." Before Elias could react, the dark reflection stepped out of the mirror. Its body shimmered like smoke, but its hands were solid, tipped with claws. It circled him, silent except for the scrape of its feet on stone. Elias's mouth went dry. "I don't want this," he whispered. The shadow grinned. "I know. That's why I do." It lunged. Elias dodged, barely avoiding the slash of its claws. He stumbled, nearly falling, and the shadow struck again. This time it sliced the sleeve of his shirt, leaving a thin cut on his arm. Pain seared him, real, sharp. This wasn't a dream. His mind screamed to run, but where could he go? The mirrors surrounded him, every path leading back to the trial. The shadow advanced slowly, savoring his fear. Elias thought of his parents downstairs, completely unaware that he had vanished into a mirror. Would he ever see them again? Would anyone even know what happened to him? "No," Elias muttered, shaking his head. "You're not me. You're just a shadow." Something stirred inside him, anger, not just fear. If this creature was born of his reflection, then maybe it was fueled by what he gave it. His fear had made it strong. But what if he refused? The shadow leapt again. This time Elias didn't run. He grabbed a shard of broken glass from the floor, a fragment he hadn't noticed before, and thrust it upward. The shard pierced through the shadow's chest. The creature froze. Its body quivered, cracked like shattered glass, and then exploded into smoke. Elias collapsed, clutching the shard, his breath ragged. Around him the mirrors flickered and the whispers fell silent. For now. The silence after the shadow's destruction was unbearable. Elias stood in the dim hall, glass shard trembling in his hand, waiting for the whispers to return. But the mirrors only reflected his pale, frightened face. Then a voice echoed, smooth and cold. "Well done," it purred. Elias spun around. His double stood only a few feet away, hands clasped behind his back as though this was all a game. His silver eyes glowed faintly in the gloom. "You survived your first trial," the double continued. "I must admit I didn't think you had it in you." Elias glared at him. "Why are you doing this?" "What do you want from me?" The double tilted his head, studying him. "Want? Oh, Elias, I don't want. I deserve. For too long I've been trapped in the glass, forced to mimic your every move, your every word. I have been your shadow, your prisoned half. But when you touched the mirror," he smiled sharp as broken glass, "you gave me freedom." Elias felt his stomach twist. "So you took my place." "Exactly." The double's eyes narrowed. "And I won't give it back. Why should I? Out there I can live. I can laugh, eat, breathe. You," he gestured at Elias with disdain, "you belong here now in my prison." Elias' chest tightened. The thought of never seeing the real world again, never feeling sunlight or hearing his mother's voice made his heart ache. "No," he whispered. "I won't stay here. I'll find a way back." The double chuckled darkly. "You still don't understand. There is only one way to leave the mirror realm. You must reclaim your reflection, but that means destroying me." Elias froze. Destroying him? Could he really strike down someone who looked exactly like him? The double's grin widened. "You see, Elias, every mirror holds a choice. Break it and you shatter yourself. Fail the trials and you become one of them." He gestured at the mirrors, where faint shapes pressed against the glass, faces twisted, eyes hollow. People who had once walked into mirrors and never returned. Elias staggered back. Each reflection looked like a ghost, a prisoner clawing to escape. Was this his future? The double stepped closer, lowering his voice. I am not your enemy, Elias. I am your replacement. Accept it, and you will fade quietly into glass. Resist. He leaned forward, his silver eyes burning. And you will suffer. For the first time since entering the mirror realm, Elias felt a spark of defiance burn stronger than his fear. I'm not fading, he said, his grip tightening on the shard. Not for you. The double's smile vanished. The mirrors groaned, their surfaces rippling like stormy water. The final trial was coming. The mirrors screamed. Their surfaces shivered like restless oceans, spilling distorted images onto the black marble floor. Figures clawed at the glass, pressing against it as though desperate to escape. The air grew heavy, vibrating with the sound of shattering glass that never quite broke. Elias tightened his grip on the shard, his heart pounding. His double stood across from him, silver eyes glowing like twin moons. This is your last chance, the double said, his voice sharp as steel. Surrender, and I will grant you peace. Fight me, and the mirror realm will consume you. Elias swallowed hard. Fear gnawed at him, but beneath it was something stronger. A stubborn fire that whispered, you don't belong here. I'm not giving up, he said. His voice wavered, but his words were steady. I'm going home. The double's face twisted into a snarl. Then you'll die here. He lunged. Their bodies collided, echoing through the endless hall. Elias ducked beneath a swing of clawed fingers and slashed with the shard. The double blocked effortlessly, his strength inhuman, his movements precise. Every strike Elias made was mirrored and turned back against him, as though he was fighting himself, but faster, stronger, crueler. Glass cracked beneath their feet as they struggled. Elias's arms ached. His breath came in ragged gasps, but he refused to stop. With every clash, the mirrors around them trembled, their imprisoned shadows watching with hungry eyes. You can't win, the double hissed, forcing Elias to the ground. I am you. I know every thought, every weakness, every fear. Pinned, Elias felt the shard slipping from his grasp. The double raised his claws, ready to strike the final blow. And then Elias remembered, back in the attic before it all began. His reflection hadn't matched him. The smile had been wrong. The gestures had been wrong. This thing wasn't him, it was only pretending. Elias's eyes widened. He didn't need to fight like his double. He needed to be himself. Summoning the last of his strength, Elias let go of the shard. The double's smirk flickered with confusion, just long enough. Elias rolled aside, snatched the shard again, and hurled it straight at the mirror behind his double. The glass exploded. Light burst from the shattered mirror, flooding the hall in blinding brilliance. The double screamed, his silver eyes burning white as cracks split across his body. No, he howled, reaching for Elias. If I fall, so do you. But Elias stood firm. You're not me. The double's body fractured into shards, scattering into the collapsing hall. The whispers of the trapped souls rose like a storm, then faded into silence. Elias fell forward, through the broken mirror, and landed back in the attic. The mirror lay shattered before him, its frame empty, its surface gone. Elias gasped, touching his face, his arms, his chest. He was whole. He was free. But from the fragments of glass on the floor, a faint silver eye blinked once, and then went still.